Praise to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everybody that is here on the Lord's Holy Sabbath Day. We are streaming live via YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Israel, the Church of Jesus, Toronto. And we welcome everybody that is tuning in, as well as everybody that's here today. We'll go ahead and get right into the lesson. The title of the lesson today is, Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. Again, the title of the lesson is, Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. And we are all a work in progress, including the preacher. All of us are working to live according to the principles that Christ has given us. And this is one such principle. We find this statement in the Bible, be ye angry and sin not. And we're going to take a look at what that means and what we have to do this. So we're going to start at Ephesians chapter 4. And as we always like to say, if you're watching online, please make sure you have a Bible and even a pen and pad to take notes. But we love for everybody to read along so that we can all see the word for ourselves. Ephesians chapter 4. And we're going to start at verse 21. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 21. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
If so be that ye have heard him and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Jesus, that ye put off concerning the former conversation, the old man. Okay,
so it said, if so be that ye have heard him and have been taught by him, as the truth is in Jesus. So if we're learning of Jesus, it says that ye put off concerning the former conversation, the old man. See, this is our old ways, the old way we used to talk, the old way we used to react. And it's supposed to be old as we come into the truth, as we come into a covenant with God. We are supposed to change. Keep going.
Which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust.
See, that's the motivation that we had in our actions. The motivation is that we were corrupt according to deceitful lust. We were motivated by our lust, motivated by our fleshly inclinations. And that's why the precepts of Christ are completely opposite to what we would normally want to do. See, when we get angry, we don't initially think, okay, well, I'm angry, but let me make sure I don't sin. That's not the natural inclination. The natural inclination is to be angry and then do something to express that anger, to satisfy that anger. That's the natural inclination that we have. That's why be ye angry and sin not is so far removed from what we normally would decide to do, which is why we need Christ. So that you put off concerning the former conversation, the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust. Keep going.
And be renewed in the spirit of your mind. And that ye put on the new man.
So we have to change the motivation and the purpose of our actions. We got to change all that. It can't be according to deceitful lust anymore. It has to be according to serving God and pleasing God. And that you put on the new man, keep going.
Which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. Wherefore, putting away lying.
So he then gives us, God always gives us specifics. He doesn't just throw words out there and walk away. How do we get renewed in the spirit of our mind? How do we change our ways? Well, here's one specific way. Stop lying. Wherefore, putting away lying, keep going.
Speaking every man truth with his brethren, with his neighbor. For we are members one of another. Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath.
See what he said? Be ye angry. This is where we got the title from. Be ye angry and sin not. And he also said, let not the sun go down on your wrath. Now, see, that's another thing that normally doesn't happen. Hey, when we're angry, hey, that might go on for days and days and weeks and months sometimes. But if we're following Christ, when we get angry, at a certain point, hey, we understand that we have to be about putting this to rest, getting rid of that anger, dealing with the issue, and having it be resolved. And it said even do that before the sun goes down. So that's letting us know we need to be expedient about resolving this and putting this anger aside. Keep going.
Neither give place to the devil.
So that's why. See, there's a good reason for that. But again, this is totally contrary to our natural inclinations. Our natural inclination might be to harbor or let the anger fester, or to even fake and act like we're not angry anymore, but still be in the back of our minds planning some type of revenge or retribution. That's generally our natural inclination. But the Lord is telling us through the Bible, be ye angry and sin not, let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Hey, get that dealt with immediately. Why? Neither give place to the devil, because the devil is waiting on something like this to come as a doorway to come in. Skip down to verse 31 and go ahead.
Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice.
See, Christ is telling us, hey, all of these tools that the devil is looking for, all of these things that are going to drag us down and keep us from the focus, which is striving to get into the kingdom. Hey, put all that away. That would be bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking. Let that be put away with all malice. See, these are the things that our natural inclinations draw us to. We gravitate to these things. We gravitate to bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking. Keep going.
And be ye kind one to another. Tender-hearted.
See, these are the things that when we're angry, this is the last thing that we're thinking about. When you're upset and angry, the last thing you think about is being kind or even tender-hearted. It takes some doing to get to that place. And that's why, again, that's why we got to meditate in the Word and change our motivations, change the reasons why we're doing things, change the mindset that we have. That's what it means to be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Hey, I recognize that my natural inclination is to get angry and snap. So now I have to change that and start to try to condition myself that, hey, when I get angry, maybe I need to go sit down somewhere and get my head together first, and then make some decisions from a proper perspective. And be ye kind one to another, tenderhearted. Keep going.
Forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake has forgiven you.
And this is how, hey, the Lord said he does not like hypocrites in multiple places. Being a hypocrite is a problem. And this is the motivation and why we need to be kind and tenderhearted and be forgiving, because that is exactly what we are looking for from God.
Right.
We are beseeching God to be kind to us and tenderhearted and forgiving to us. So it would not make any sense for us to turn around and be bitter and wrathful and have anger towards someone else. But again, hey, this is what we're striving to deal with. This is not, people want to say we don't need God, we don't need the Bible. People have evolved. We come from evolution. We choose what the best things are for us to do, and all the wrong things fall to the wayside. Well, hey, these things we're reading about here, man has not chosen. Sorry to be the messenger of that news, but we can all see clearly that man has not chosen this. Our natural inclination is to still do this. So yes, we need the master to guide us. That's what he's doing here. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5 and one verse. Verse 22. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 22. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 22. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
But I say unto you, that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment.
Okay, this is Jesus talking here. And he's letting us know that you will have a big problem with me if you are angry with your brother without a cause. He's not talking about killing your brother. He's not talking about sleeping with your brother's wife. He's saying, hey, if you are developing anger towards your brother without a cause, that's a problem. And what is being angry without a cause? A lot of times that means, hey, we have gotten to the point where we are upset about something, but we don't really even know the whole story to begin with. So that anger is coming from whatever is being calculated or being presumed in our own mind. But yet we still projecting that anger on someone else without finding out what their perspective is, or if they even had the intention of what we are presuming they had the intention of. See, that's not getting the whole story, being presumptuous. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Keep going.
And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire.
Okay, so Raka, thou fool. This is, you are basically saying to someone that they are worthless, that they never gonna get it. You know, a lot of times, hey, we might preach the word to somebody and it seemingly goes in one ear and out the other to someone. But we don't control that, and we don't know how this all ends for anybody.
Nope.
Just as no one knew how it was going to end for us. See how that works?
Right.
See, we can't be hypocrites counting anybody else out because we weren't counted out. But if we go ahead and snap judgment, oh, you ain't never going to get it, or even worse, you worthless. The Lord is saying, hey, you in danger of the council, or you in danger of hellfire for coming to that conclusion in your own mind about somebody and then projecting that on them. This is serious business to Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Joshua chapter 22. Joshua chapter 22 and verse 7. Joshua chapter 22 and verse 7. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Now to the one half of the tribe of Manasseh, Moses had given possessions in Bashan. But unto the other half thereof gave Joshua among their brethren on this side Jordan westward. And when Joshua sent them away also unto their tents, then he blessed them. And he spake unto them, saying, return with much riches unto your tents, and with very much cattle, with silver, and with gold, and with brass, and with iron, and with very much raiment. Divide the spoil of your enemies with your brethren. And the children of Reuben, and the children of Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh returned and departed from the children of Israel out of Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan, to go unto the country of Gilead, to the land of their possession, whereof they were possessed according to the words of the Lord by the hands of Moses. And when they came unto the borders of Jordan that are in the land of Canaan, the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh built there an altar by Jordan, a great altar to see to. And the children of Israel heard say, behold, the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh had built an altar over against the land of Canaan in the borders of Jordan at the passage of the children of Israel. Okay,
so we're reading about Joshua when the children of Israel actually got into where the Lord was bringing them. He said, go and to where the land was divided to you by tribe, go and possess it and divide the spoil of your enemies. Well, these three tribes here went over against the border of Jordan. So they were a little more far off. They were a little separated from where the rest of the tribes were. And they built an altar. Verse 12.
And when the children of Israel heard of it, the whole congregation of the children of Israel gathered themselves together at Shiloh to go up to war against them.
Okay, so the rest of the tribes heard that these tribes built an altar and they are ready to go to war with them. Why? Because they are assuming that these tribes built an altar to sacrifice to false gods. So because they're making that assumption, they're ready to go kill them. Keep going.
And the children of Israel sent unto the children of Reuben and to the children of Gad and to the half tribe of Manasseh and to the land of Gilead, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, and with him 10 princes of each tribe, each chief house, a prince throughout all the tribes of Israel. And each one was an head of the house of their fathers among the thousands of Israel. And they came unto the children of Reuben and to the children of Gad and to the half tribe of Manasseh unto the land of Gilead. And they spake with them, saying.
Okay, so they were ready to go to war with these other tribes for building this altar. But what did they do first? They sent some princes to go talk with them. See, we're going to learn and understand in this lesson that communication is key in this area of being angry. And it's key in not sinning because we need to get the facts. That's what Jesus said. He said, if you are angry with your brother without a cause, right? And the motivation behind these tribes wanting to go to war, hey, that's noble motivation. They are trying to uphold the law, statutes, and commandments of God. But if they had gone to fight without finding out what was going on with these other tribes or why they built this altar, factually, if they had done this without getting the facts, then they would have been in transgression of what Jesus was talking about. So they show some wisdom by saying, hey, we upset. We ready to go to war, but we are going to find out first why they built this altar. And that's a lesson for us. That's what we need to do. We need to be ready to communicate, ready to resolve, ready to get the facts to make sure, hey, the first thing we need to make sure is, should I even be angry? Do I even know for a fact what I'm angry about? Of course, the Lord is telling us, the Bible is telling us that we are going to get angry. That's going to happen. But the first course of action is, okay, I'm angry. Should I be angry? Do I really have the information to react this way? Maybe I need to get some more information first. So that's what they did. He said he sent Phinehas, the son of Eleazar the priest, and with him 10 princes of each chief house of a prince throughout all the tribes of Israel, and each one was the head of the house of their fathers among the children of Israel. And they came unto the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh unto the land of Gilead, and they spake with them, saying, verse 16,
thus saith the whole congregation of the Lord, what trespass is this that ye have committed against the God of Israel, to turn away this day from following the Lord, and that ye have built it, you an altar, that ye might rebel this day against the Lord.
Okay, so they're making some presumptions. They're jumping to some conclusions, but they are communicating to try to get the confusion resolved. Or maybe it's not confusion. Maybe they're going to verify, yeah, that's what we're doing. But then they have the facts that they need to say, okay, well, we were right. But what's going on now? Functional communication, that's what we're looking at, as opposed to dysfunctional communication. They are laying it out on the line what their perspective is. Keep going.
Is the iniquity of Peor too little for us, from which we are not cleansed until this day? Although there was a plague in the congregation of the Lord, but that ye must turn away this day from following the Lord? And it will be, seeing ye rebel today against the Lord, that tomorrow he will be wroth with the whole congregation of Israel. Notwithstanding, if the land of your possession be unclean, then pass ye over unto the land of the possession of the Lord, wherein the Lord's tabernacle dwelleth, and take possession among us. But rebel not against the Lord, nor rebel against us, in building you an altar beside the altar of the Lord our God. Did not Achan, the son of Zerah, commit a trespass in the accused thing, and wrath fell on all the congregation of Israel? And that man perished not alone in his iniquity?
So they laid it out. Hey, look, if you building an altar, we know you're not supposed to do that. We already got an altar. So it looked like y'all trying to rebel, and that's a problem. So they presented it to them. Keep going.
Then the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the half tribe of Manasseh answered and said unto the heads of the thousands of Israel, the Lord God of gods, the Lord God of gods, he knoweth, and Israel shall know it. If it be in rebellion, or if in transgression against the Lord, save us not this day.
Okay, so they responded, and hey, surprisingly, they are agreeing with the other tribes, saying, hey, if we're rebelling against the Lord, then hey, the Lord, don't save us today. Take us out as you guys have planned, because that's wrong. And see, this is where communication is key. This is where communication is key, because how would these other tribes know this if they did not go and ask? And that may have been a surprising response to them. Hey, if we doing what y'all say we're doing, definitely take us out. Keep going.
That we have built us an altar to turn from following the Lord, or if to offer thereon burnt offering or meat offering, or if to offer peace offering thereon, let the Lord himself require it. And if we have not rather done it for fear of this thing, saying, in time to come your children might speak unto our children, saying, what have ye to do with the Lord God of Israel? For the Lord has made Jordan a border between us and you, ye children of Reuben and you children of Gad. Ye have no part in the Lord. So shall your children make our children cease from fearing the Lord.
So now they get down to the bottom, to the heart of the matter. The reason that these three tribes built this altar was to be as a memorial or a remembrance to the generations to come after them, that they are in fact connected to the tribes that are over on the other side of the border. They didn't want history to get rewritten and for their children to forget that they are all one nation and that they all do things together. And they understood that, hey, because these tribes are separated by this river, there may be some disconnect in the future. So to avoid that, we're going to go ahead and build this altar as a reminder or as a memorial to that. They had no intentions of doing what these other tribes were going to come kill them for doing. In other words. But what was key in getting this understood? Communication. They had to come together and put it out on the table and talk about it. And then realize some things about the presumptions that they had. Keep going.
Therefore we said, let us now prepare to build us an altar, not for burnt offering, nor for sacrifice, but that it may be a witness between us and you and our generations after us, that we might do the service of the Lord before him with our burnt offerings and with our sacrifices and with our peace offerings, that your children may not say to our children in time to come, ye have no part in the Lord. Therefore said we, that it shall be when they shall so say to us or to our generations in time to come, that we may say again, behold, the pattern of the altar of the Lord, which our fathers made, not for burnt offerings, nor for sacrifices, but it is a witness between us and you. God forbid that we should rebel against the Lord and turn this day from following the Lord.
Well, see what he's saying? So he's clearing it up. He said, hey, God forbid that we do that. This altar is a witness between us and you for our children's sake.
Right.
See?
Right.
But how else would they get this information if they did not have a conversation? And what else is it showing us? It's showing us that in these conversations, people are going to bring their own prejudices and presumptions and ideas to these conversations, right? So someone may come to the conversation angry. That's why the title of the lesson is Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. Someone may come to the table angry with a whole lot of preconceived ideas. That's generally how that works. But what makes the situation functional as opposed to dysfunctional is the open dialogue of clearing up those preconceived ideas. That's exactly what we see here, right?
Right.
Keep going.
To build us an altar for burnt offerings, for meat offerings, or for sacrifices, beside the altar of the Lord our God, that is before his tabernacle. And when Phinehas, the priest, and the princes of the congregation, and heads of the thousands of Israel which were with him, heard the words that the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and the children of Manasseh spake, it pleased them.
So they got it resolved. And guess what? They're not angry anymore. It said they heard these words and it probably relieved them. Man, we don't have to go to war with our own people. They're not trying to rebel. God's not going to come and do something to us. We understand this is actually a good reason they're doing this. So they started off ready to kill him, angry, and it ended up, hey, they realized, hey, this is a good thing that they're doing. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Leviticus chapter 10. Leviticus chapter 10 and verse 1. Leviticus chapter 10 and verse 1. Leviticus chapter 10 and verse 1. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took either of them his censer, and put fire therein, and put incense thereon, and offered strange fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not.
Okay, so these are the sons of Aaron the priest, and they are going to take it upon themselves to worship God in a way that God did not command them to. They're going to take censers and put fire in and offer strange fire to the Lord. This is us learning something on the way to learning something. God got a problem with this. Because some people say, hey, you worship your way and I can worship mine and we'll all end up in the kingdom together. Well, we see from this that is not necessarily the case, is it? Because they chose their way to do it, but it was not what God commanded. And let's see what happened. Verse 2.
And there went out fire from the Lord and devoured them. And they died before the Lord.
Okay, so God was not happy with that. Point blank, period. Not happy with it because it was not something that he told them that they should do for him. Verse 3.
Then Moses said unto Aaron, this is it that the Lord spake, saying, I will be sanctified in them that come nigh me, and before all the people I will be glorified. And Aaron held his peace.
So Aaron, these are his sons that just died. Let's just let that marinate for a second. Not only did his sons just die, the Lord killed his sons on the spot. Keep going.
And Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said unto them, come near, carry your brethren from before the sanctuary out of the camp. So they went near and carried them in their coats out of the camp. And Moses had said, as Moses had said. Keep going, or
skip down to verse 12 and go ahead.
And Moses spake unto Aaron and unto Eleazar and to Ithamar, his sons that were left. Take the meat offering that remaineth of the offerings of the Lord made by fire, and eat it, without leaven beside the altar, for it is most holy. And ye shall eat it in the holy place, because it is thy due, and thy sons' due, of the sacrifices of the Lord made by fire. For so I am commanded.
Okay, skip down to verse 16 and go ahead.
And Moses diligently sought the goat of the sin offering, and behold, it was burnt, and he was angry with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron, which were left alive, saying, Wherefore have ye not eaten the sin offering in the holy place, seeing it is most holy, and God has given it you to bear the iniquities of the congregation, to make atonement for them before the Lord.
Okay, so here's another example. Moses commanded them to eat the sin offering as they are commanded by God. And he came back to check and see if they did, and they did not. And it said what? Moses was angry. Because again, that's how that works. Again, the Bible's letting us know we're going to get angry. That's why he didn't say, don't be angry. He said, be ye angry and sin not. So this is showing us anger management. That's what we're looking at from a Bible perspective. Because Moses got angry because what he was commanded by God to command these priests to do, they had not done it. But what do we see is the course of action here? The same that we saw with the tribe. Moses went and asked them, he said, wherefore have ye not eaten the sin offering in the holy place, seeing it is most holy, and God hath given it to you to bear the iniquity of the congregation, to make an atonement for them before the Lord. So Moses did what? He brought it to those in question to be resolved. And what did they say? Verse 18.
Behold, the blood of it was not brought in within the holy place. Ye shall indeed have eaten it in the holy place, as I commanded. And Aaron said unto Moses, Behold, this day have they offered their sin offering and their burnt offering before the Lord, and such things have befallen me. And if I had eaten the sin offering today, should it have been accepted in the sight of the Lord? And when Moses heard that, he was content.
So again, another example of a functional way to resolve this issue. Because Moses was angry, and rightfully so, because what was commanded had not been done. But he went and brought it. He didn't fester with the anger. He didn't sit with it. He didn't go talk to some other people about it and get their opinion on it. See, again, these are our natural inclinations. Why is it our natural inclination to take our anger that is directed towards a specific individual, to take that anger and go deal with it and talk to other people about it? Almost anybody but that person. Why is that our natural inclination? That's not what the Bible's saying. We're supposed to bring it to that person. That's what Moses did, right? Immediately brought it to Aaron, and guess what? Aaron said, hey, God killed my sons today. If I eat the sacrifice, is he going to be pleased with me? Is he going to accept it? And that made sense to Moses. It says, and when Moses heard that, he was content. So his anger was quenched, and he wasn't angry anymore because he had more information, because he understood the other perspective, because the other perspective was given to him by the person who held that perspective. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Matthew chapter 18. So we're seeing clearly that, hey, we're going to get mad. That's going to happen. And even in dealing with the person you're mad with, there's going to be some presumptions there. There's going to be some assumptions. But what we have to do is put that out on the table and earnestly try to clear things up so that we can get it back on one accord. Matthew chapter 18 and verse 15. Matthew chapter 18 and verse 15. Matthew 18 and 15. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone.
Okay, so this is somebody who has done something to you. If somebody has done something to you, the Bible says that you are to pull that person to the side and let them know what you feel they have done to you. Again, this is not generally how we do these things. Generally, we may get offended and go off to ourselves, go talk to a friend and get things off our chest and be angry and be talking to somebody that doesn't know what happened or have the other person's perspective, and the anger festers and it becomes a vicious cycle. But the way Jesus got it set up, it gets nipped in the bud immediately, right? Mm-hmm. So he said, moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. That's key, because it's easier to work something out if somebody's not embarrassed in front of a whole bunch of people, right? Mm-hmm. Go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. Keep going.
If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee,
because that's an option as well,
right?
But God got it covered. If he shall not hear thee, then what? Keep going.
Then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established.
And that's key too, because sometimes if a neutral party, it's one thing, you bring in somebody that's always on your side, but if a neutral party or someone who doesn't have a vested interest comes into play, that may even change the complexion of the conversation. Because it's one thing to look crazy in front of someone you're familiar with. It's another thing to look crazy in front of a stranger or somebody that doesn't have anything to do with it. That might change the dynamic of the conversation. So the Lord said, hey, if you can't come to an understanding, then bring a neutral party, bring somebody else, bring a witness, take with thee 1 or 2 more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And this is also documenting via witness who's saying what. Hey, I said this. No, you didn't. Well, hey, we had a witness. We had a couple witnesses. See, the idea is to get things clear. That's the bottom line. The bottom line in all the examples we've seen so far, it is a method of clearing up confusion. Because that's how God works. Keep going.
And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church.
Okay, so it is a time to let everybody know what's going on. Sometimes we see that. Sometimes we see some news come out, and everybody sees it, and people react. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, you shouldn't have did that. You should have pulled them to the side and told them by themselves. But that's a presumption in and of itself, because maybe they did that already. Maybe they pulled them to the side already and went through these steps, and those things didn't work. So there is a place for that. There is a place for letting everybody know. Why? Because that's also a way to keep confusion down. See, when things are kept in secret, then whoever's causing problems can go around and cause a whole bunch of little pockets of problems. But if everybody is aware of what's going on, that is going to also keep confusion down. Keep going.
But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say unto you, that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them.
So Jesus is letting us know, he's giving us an idea of how serious these interactions are, because he's saying, when you guys come together to work things out, I am there as well, watching and listening and taking note. He said, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, meaning whatever agreements you come to, whatever establishments you make, or however it goes, we're taking note of this in heaven. That's what he's saying. And whatsoever ye loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again, I say unto you that if 2 of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, remember, in context, this is talking about in these situations that you're trying to work out. So he's not talking about asking for a house and a car and a fat bank account. He's saying if you have a misunderstanding or disagreement and you come to an agreement or an understanding on how you're going to deal with it, he's saying that two of you shall agree on earth as touching anything that they shall ask, it shall be done for them of my Father which is in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Leviticus 19. Leviticus chapter 19. So again, I like to say that people always want to talk about how we don't need the Bible, but don't have a functional mechanism in place for these situations, and are not following the guidelines of any mechanism to clear up things so that there's not a bunch of anger and hatred. See, there is a technical way to deal with all of that stuff, and we're seeing it, right?
Right.
The moral of the story here is sit down, talk about it, get clarity, get understanding. So yes, we need this. Leviticus 19 and verse 17. Leviticus 19 and verse 17. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, nor suffer sin upon him.
So look, this principle here is completely opposite of the direction the world is going in. The world is going in the direction of make sure you don't say anything to offend or hurt anyone's feelings. That's where the world is right now. You can't say anything, even if it's the truth, if it's going to make somebody feel bad. But God is saying in these scriptures, he said, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. So how do you show your brother you don't hate him? You give him an opportunity to understand what he's doing wrong and fix it. He said, thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. You see your neighbor sin or do something that they should not be doing. You show them love by letting them know, hey, brother, you doing this and you should not be. This is what the book says on that. You know, you need to correct that. And if he was able to correct it, then, hey, he has received mercy from God. And that's what this is saying. This is showing love. That's how you show love. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Matthew chapter 5. So again, very different from the direction that the world is currently going in. Very different. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 23. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 23. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and their remembrance that thy brother has aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift.
So Jesus is giving us priority as well. He's saying, hey, if you come in to bring a gift to an altar and you remember that you have an issue with your brother or your brother, he said, and the remembrance that thy brother has aught against thee. So you bringing a gift to the altar and remember that somebody has a problem with you. He said, leave therefore thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. So he's saying, for instance, it wouldn't make any sense to come here and keep a feast knowing that you got a real big problem. You got a problem with somebody here. He's saying, before you go and offer something to me, do what you can to resolve your issues with your brother. This is what Jesus is saying. And again, very different direction here than what our natural inclinations are as people and where the direction that the world is going in as a whole. So people say we don't need the Bible. Yes, we do. Otherwise, how do we address these things? How do we get in a better position regarding these types of situations, because we're not getting in better positions regarding these things. We're getting in worse positions regarding these things. And it's not a coincidence that we are drifting further and further away from the Bible and getting in worse and worse positions regarding these types of issues. We're becoming more dysfunctional as a society regarding these issues than functional. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to John chapter 15. So we're getting some real good doctrine on anger management, aren't we? Because we've seen a few examples of people being angry, but we haven't seen them sin, which sin is breaking the law. We haven't seen the anger allow them or give them license to or reason to now make some actions that are going to ultimately be held against them. John chapter 15 and verse 5. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing.
So the Lord is letting us know where we are going to be able to get the strength and the understanding to pull these things off, to be angry and not sin, to handle things the right way. Where we get that strength from is constantly abiding in him, which is his word. That's what he's saying, right? He said, I am the vine and ye are the branches. He that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me ye can do nothing. You can't turn the other cheek without the Lord. Can't be angry and sin not without the Lord. Can't, handle these situations the way that they are supposed to be handled without God. And when we say with God, we're talking about marinating and meditating day and night in these scriptures. See, the internet's not going to make this happen. Watching a whole bunch of people talking crazy on the internet is not going to make this type of stuff come to pass. Reading a whole bunch of crazy books is not going to make this type of stuff happen. What's going to make this type of stuff happen is these 66 books right here. Meditating in this word is going to have us operating properly and functionally according to the principles that Jesus has laid out. And that's what he said. He said, abide in me and I in you. If a man, I am the vine and ye are the branches, he that abide in me and I in him. How do we abide in him? Through his word. Period. Meditating in his word. See, even the things we're reading today, the stuff we're reading today is putting it on our mind that we need to handle things differently, right? That's what's happening, right? Mm-hmm. As we're hearing the Bible tell us these things, we can recall situations where we might not have handled these things like this. So we are currently meditating in his word. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Matthew chapter 5. So it is very productive to stay in his word, to pray, and even fast, to be given the strength and wisdom and understanding to operate according to these scriptures that we're reading. And let's not get it twisted. This is the only thing that's going to get that done. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 38. Matthew chapter 5 and verse 38. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Ye have heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth.
And we can all understand that very easily. Somebody do something to me, I'm going to do something to them. You don't even really need a Bible for that. People say they don't need the Bible. Yeah, you don't need the Bible for that. A child can understand that. Child be on the playground, somebody smack them, they smack them right back. You ain't got to teach them that. You ain't got to tell them that's what they need to do. Some will just do it, right? Ye have heard that it has been said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, verse 39.
But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whatsoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also.
Now that one we may need to sit down and explain. This one you do need the Bible for. But I say unto you that ye resist not evil. What does that even mean? Why would I do that? What is my motivation for not resisting evil? And why would I let somebody smite me on a cheek and then give them the other? Make sure you don't forget this one. Why would I even do that? This one might take some counseling on, right? This is not our natural inclination. We do need God to to understand this. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Acts 23. See, these are the fruits that God is talking about, that Jesus is talking about when he said you got to bear fruit. This is what he's talking about. Acts 23 and verse 1. Acts chapter 23 and verse 1. Acts chapter 23 and verse 1. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
And Paul, earnestly beholding the council, said, Men and brethren, I have lived in all good conscience before God until this day. And the high priest Ananias commanded them that stood by him to smite him on the mouth.
Okay, so Paul is being held up by this council, and the high priest told the ones that were standing by, hey, go ahead and smack him in the mouth. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be some instant be ye angry, right? That's going to get anybody instantly upset. Verse 3, go ahead.
Then said Paul unto him, God shall smite thee, thou whited wall. For sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law?
Okay, so we understand that Paul's response, right? Oh, you going to smack me? God going to smack you. You call yourself a high priest, and you're going to judge me after the law, but then you're going to tell somebody to hit me, which is against the law? Keep going.
And they that stood by said, Revealest thou God's high priest?
So the ones that stood by, who one of those is the ones that smacked Paul. Then Paul responded, feeling justified, saying, hey, you gonna tell them to hit me, and that's against the law, but you're supposed to be upholding the law? And those standing by defended the high priest and said, do you revile God's high priest? Meaning you're going to disrespect God's high priest? Now, let's put ourselves in that situation. Because how many times do you felt like you've been done wrong and those standing by took the side of the one who did something wrong to you? That's also going to, you get smacked in the mouth, then people take the other side, that's going to make you really angry, right? That's why the title of the lesson is Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. Look at these examples we got. We got a lot of good examples here, right? So they said, and they that stood by said, Revilest thou God's high priest? Meaning, are you really going to talk to the high priest like that? Verse 5.
Then said Paul, I was not, brethren, that he was the high priest. For it is written, Thou shalt not speak evil of the rulers of thy people.
So Paul humbled himself. In that situation, he said, look, I didn't know he was the high priest. He said, then Paul said, I wist not, brethren, that he was the high priest. For it is written, where's it written? In the law. Side note, here's a good example of Paul keeping the law in the New Testament. Because he said, I wist not, brethren, that he was the high priest. For it is written, thou shalt not speak evil of the ruler of thy people. So Paul, even though he got smacked in the mouth, even though he felt that it was unfair. Hey, you got to feel unfair, that it's unfair that they taking up for the high priest. When they brought up when they brought up that he was a high priest, Paul knew that he would be breaking the law for talking to him like that, and he humbled himself. This is a perfect example of what this lesson is about. That's why the title of the lesson is Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. Again, we are going to get angry, but that is as far as that can go. And we have to be about the business of resolution, resolving, communicating in a functional manner to get issues put to the side. Are we finished with that?
Yes. Okay,
let's go to James chapter 1. James chapter 1. And verse 25. James chapter 1 and verse 25. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty and continues therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed.
So look what James is letting us know. He said, whoso looketh into what? The perfect law of liberty. Not the flawed law. Because God's law is not flawed, it's perfect. God's word is not flawed, it's perfect. And the Bible's telling us if we look into that perfect law of liberty and continue in that perfect law, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deeds. Lord laid it out there for us what we need to do. All we got to do is do it. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to 2 Samuel 16. 2 Samuel 16. And verse 5. 2 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 5. Second Samuel 16 and verse 5. And this is a famous story. We read this story all the time, of the story of David when he was on the run from Saul, and a man named Shimei came out and was cursing at David and throwing rocks at him. Which David is a man of war and had warriors with him. So somebody coming out cursing and throwing rocks at David did not have to happen. They could have took care of that guy quick, fast, in a hurry. Even those around David. David wouldn't even had to do it. But 2 Samuel 16 and verse 5. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
And when King David came to Bahurim, behold, thence came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gera. He came forth and cursed still as he came. And he cast stones at David and at all the servants of King David. And all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. And thus said Shimei when he cursed, come out, thou bloody man, and thou man of Belial. The Lord hath returned upon thee all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose stead thou hast reigned. And the Lord has delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom thy son. And behold, thou art taken in thy mischief, because thou art a bloody man.
Okay, so this guy is clearly angry. But let's notice that the reason he's angry is incorrect. That all this he just said is not the truth. He has no idea what happened and why these things are happening to David. He is making, again, assumptions and presumptions, which, hey, that's part of the game. That comes with the territory. In disputes, in arguments, in people being angry, that comes with the territory. We got to just accept that somebody may have some wrong notions which may be fueling their anger. And that's why the key is to get that dealt with and get rid of that initially. Because that's what's going to fester and bring up things like this. Now you got this guy yelling, cursing at David, throwing stones at him. and he starts saying why this stuff is happening to David, he's completely off. Keep going.
Then said Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, unto the king, why should this dead dog curse my king the Lord? Let me go over, I pray thee, and take off his head.
See, David had warriors with him. They was going to chop his head off. If David had given the word, he had the power to do that. Keep going.
And the king said, what have I to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah? So let him curse, because the Lord has said unto him, curse David. Who shall then say, wherefore hast thou done so? And David said to Abishai and to all his servants, behold, my son, which came forth of my bowels, seeketh my life. How much more now may this Benjamite do it? Let him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has bidden him. It may be that the Lord will look on my affliction, and that the Lord will requite me good for his cursing this day. And as David and his men went by the way, Shimei went along on the hillside over against him and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him and cast dust.
Okay, so what is this showing us? This is another biblical Christ-like mechanism to being angry and sinning not, which is humbling ourselves. That's another way to make sure that even if something is going on that can make us angry or we're getting angry, hey, humbling yourself is a sure quick fix to not sinning. Because David, otherwise, if David had let his anger take over, or the people around him, hey, somebody would have sinned by taking this guy out.
Right.
Which didn't need to happen. So humbling ourselves is yet another principle that Christ has given us to deal with being angry and sinning not. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to John chapter 7. John chapter 7. And again, very different conversation, very different direction than where the world is going and how we naturally, outside of God, like to operate. John chapter 7 and verse 1. John chapter 7 and verse 1. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him.
So what is this showing us? Again, another great example. Jesus ain't asking nobody to hang around and make yourself available to those who are trying to harm you. Right? Because he said, if somebody smites you on the cheek, give them the other cheek also. But that's just basically saying, don't resist the evil, but at the same time, he's not putting himself in situations of evil. So that's just showing us the balance in the scriptures. Of course, it all makes sense once you put it all together. So it said Jesus would not walk in Jewry. Why? Because the Jews sought to kill him. Keep going.
Now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles was at hand.
Okay, skip down to verse 8 and go ahead.
Go ye up unto this feast. I go not up yet unto this feast, for my time is not yet full come.
Skip down to verse 10 and go ahead.
But when his brothers were gone up, then went he also up unto the feast, not openly, but as it were in secret. Then the Jews sought him at the feast and said, where is he? Okay,
so we're just reading this to show, hey, of course we use common sense. When the Lord tell us, to turn the other cheek and not to resist evil. Clearly, he's not saying we got to put ourselves in situations where we could get harmed. Because we see that's not what he did, right?
Right.
Okay, are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to 1 John 3. Because the title of the lesson is Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. So we got to understand what sin is. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4. 1 John chapter 3 and verse 4. Okay, when you get there, go ahead.
Whosoever committeth sin transgresses also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law.
Okay, so that's what sin is. So basically what he's saying is, be ye angry. You could be angry, but don't break the law. That's what be ye angry and sin not means. You could be angry, but don't allow your anger to now make you do something that would be contrary to what Christ is instructing us to do. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Romans chapter 7. Romans chapter 7. Romans chapter 7 and verse 14. Romans chapter 7 and verse 14. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
So notice what we keep reading. The law is perfect. That's what we read earlier, right? It said, if you follow the perfect law of liberty. Now we're reading that the law is spiritual. See, this is how you walk in the spirit, by obeying the law. And we cannot allow our anger to now take us off the path of the spiritual into the path of the carnal or the physical. He said, for we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. Let's go to Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5. Because remember, it said, don't give place to the devil, right? And that's what anger is going to do if it continues and continues and continues and the door stays open. Hey, you giving place to the devil, because ultimately you're going to stop walking through the physical, which is the law, obeying God, and stop walking in the spiritual, which is the law, obeying God, and start walking in the physical, in the carnal, and operating from our fleshly desires. Hey, I want some get back. I want to get him a piece of my mind. I want to I want to hurt them, or I want to make them feel like they making me feel. All of that's motivated from the flesh. This is not walking in the spirit. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 16. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 16. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
This I say then, walk in the spirit. Okay,
so now we know what that means, right? We're not talking about following Casper. That's what a lot of these churches want to make us believe walking in the spirit is. Oh, we following, some ghost that we can't. No, that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about following the law. Walking in the precepts of God. Walking according to all that we've read so far on how to interact with each other. Then I say then, walk in the spirit. Keep going.
And ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh.
That's why the lesson says, be ye angry and sin not. Because even though we get angry, we don't want to ultimately fulfill the lust of the flesh. Keep going.
For the flesh lusts against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would.
And is that not true? That's universal. That's even true for people who don't deal with the Bible. Right? People that's hooked on drugs. Hey, at some point they understand that this is not good. I don't really want to keep smoking crack. But hey, I can't stop. Right? For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary one to the other, so that ye could not do the things ye would. So yeah, we need God. We need the Bible. We need these precepts and concepts. We need to be Christ-like. Because outside of that, we're going to be completely fleshly, and that's going to head us. That's why they got a doomsday clock. on the wall because they know where that's headed. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Numbers chapter 20. We're going to look at some of the easy ways that anger will allow us to sin. Some of the easy ways that anger leads to sin. Let me say it that way. These are some easy ways that anger leads to sin. Numbers chapter 20 and verse 1. Numbers chapter 20 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. And there was no water for the congregation. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And the people called with Moses and spake, saying, would God that we had died when our brethren died before the Lord? And why have ye brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? And wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt, to bring us in unto this evil place? It is no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates. Neither is there any water to drink. And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take the rod, and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So thou shalt give the congregation and those beasts drink.
Okay, so the children of Israel in classic form are taking ungratefulness to a whole nother level. And this is what Moses was dealing with time in and day out. The ungrateful nation who is seeing God single-handedly use miracles to deliver them and provide for them, and still are acting like he's not. Which would get anybody angry. They say Moses was the meekest man on the earth, but even he has his points where, hey, this is just getting ridiculous. And the children of Israel are experts at getting somebody to be like, hey, this is just getting ridiculous. And that's what's going on here. So they complaining, there's no this, there's no that. We should have just died where we were. Why'd you bring us out here? So Moses and Aaron went and inquired of the Lord. The Lord told them, hit the rock, speak to the rock before their eyes, and it shall bring forth water. Verse 9.
And Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock. And he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels.
One more time, read verse 10.
And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels. Okay,
did the Lord tell him where's he getting this hear now, ye rebel stuff from? It's because Moses is upset. He angry. He getting fed up, and understandably so. He getting fed up with the children of Israel being stiff-necked, hard-headed. No matter what they see God do, no matter what he brings them through, they still on their same stuff. They are being rebellious. And Moses clearly is angry about that, but he can't allow that to dictate his actions, right? That's what the whole lesson is about. Be ye angry and sin not. But that's what he's doing. He's allowing his anger to get the best of him. He said, and Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels. Keep going.
Must we fetch ye water out of this rock?
So he didn't even, didn't give God the glory. So he allowed his anger and his frustration with the children of Israel, which the children of Israel will get you angry and frustrated. We all understand that. But he's allowing his anger and frustration to knock him off his square on what God has commanded him to do. So he said, hear ye now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? Verse 11.
And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believe me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them.
Now Moses got to pay. Now he done got angry. And went and did something he wasn't supposed to do, and now he got to pay for it.
Right.
That's why the title of the lesson is Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. We've seen time and time again examples in the book where, hey, it got to stop with the anger. It got to stop with the anger. There can be no actions made operating off the anger. This is the direction we getting from the Bible, from Jesus. You gonna tell me the world don't need this? Really? I beg to differ. We all need this. We would be delusional to think that we don't need this type of guidance. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Job chapter 2. Let's go to Job chapter 2. It's another famous story that we read a lot, but hey, though, the whole point of what was going on here was to get Job to get angry and sin with his lips. See, we said we're going to look at one easy way to sin from being angry, and it is sinning with your lips, sinning with your mouth, saying something you shouldn't say. That's what Moses did, right? Moses got in trouble for something he said based on him being angry. So this is something we have to watch. This is a easy way to be ye angry and sin. By saying something we shouldn't say. And that's the whole point of this, what was happening here in the Job story. Job chapter 2 and verse 1. Job chapter 2 and verse 1. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, from whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. And Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin, yea, all that a man has will he give give for his life. But put forth thy hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face.
See what Satan trying to get Job to do? Satan trying to take the easy road. He trying to have the kitchen sink thrown at Job to get Job to sin with his lips. Because that's the quickest and easiest way to get that done. So that was Satan's whole goal. Keep going.
And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, he is in thy hand, but save his life. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown.
And this is nothing to sneeze at. If anybody's ever had a health issue, things get really real very fast. Really real very fast. Keep going.
And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, doest thou still retain thy integrity? Curse God and die.
See, Satan was even able to use his wife ended up saying to Job exactly what Satan said to God that he was trying to get done. He was even able to say this to Job through his wife. Keep going.
But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speakest. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips.
See, Job kept the faith. Job kept his integrity. His mindset was, no matter what, I'm going to serve God. I could take some good from God. I could take some bad from God. I'm going to take whatever God got to give me. But the point is, he didn't sin with his lips. That was Satan's goal, because that's one of the easiest ways to get it done. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to skip over to Matthew 5 and go straight to Ephesians 4. I think we read Matthew 5 already.
Yes.
Ephesians 4. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 29. Ephesians 4 and verse 29. Okay, when you get there, go ahead.
Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of God, whereby ye are sealed unto the day of redemption.
Okay, so we're not supposed to let any corrupt communication proceed out of our mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And that's a workload in and of itself. To bridle the tongue to the point, especially when we're angry, to be thinking about this, not letting any corrupt communication, because that's what comes out of your mouth when you're angry, right? A host of corrupt communication. So again, these are the precepts that we are supposed to be conforming to. This is the guidance that we need. You know, people say, I want the Lord to shape me, mold me, make me over, direct order my steps, God. You got songs about all that. Well, this is how that gets done. He ordering our steps right here. He going to order some steps right here from God. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearer. That's him ordering our steps. Are we finished with that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to James chapter 3. James chapter 3 and verse 2. James chapter 3 and verse 2. James chapter 3 and verse 2. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body.
So James is giving us an understanding of how difficult it is to control the things that we say. He said, if any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, able also to bridle the whole body. Verse 3.
Behold, we put bits in horses' mouths, that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great, and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small hem, whithersoever the governor listens. Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasts great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindleth. And the tongue is a fire, a whirl of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defileth the whole body, and setteth on fire the course of nature, and it is set on fire of hell. For every kind of beasts, and of birds, and of serpents, and of things in the sea, is tamed and has been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceedeth blessings and cursing. My brethren, these things ought not so to be. Doeth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries? Even a vine, figs? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of all good conversations his works with meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish.
See what he's saying? See what the Bible says? And this is true. This is our natural inclination. Our natural inclination is not to be meek. Our natural inclination, we say, but if ye have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descended not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. You gonna tell me that's not true? Of course it is. That's why we need this guidance from God. Again, people like to say, oh, we could come up with this on our own. We don't need God to tell us this. Really? Well, how come the world is not overflowing with this understanding? How come the world is not benefiting from the fruits of this type of evolution of the mind? How come we not just naturally evolving to understand these things? Why ain't it happening? Because the Bible is right. Because what's really going to happen is bitter envy and strife in our hearts, which is earthly, sensual, and devilish. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're trying to combat with the Word of God. That's what the Lord is trying to. That's why God has given us His Word to change from this. Are we finished with that?
16.
Okay, go ahead.
For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy.
And see, he's not talking about. He say the wisdom that is above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits. And this is not from a superficial standpoint. You know how people like to smile and say, oh, brother, I love you. I come in love, brother. It's all about love. Meanwhile, they done already worked something out to take everything you got and they stabbing you in the back. That's not what God is talking about. He's not talking about on the surface, superficial this. He's talking about this is your genuine intention when dealing with people. The wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable and gentle and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Are we finished with that?
Verse 18. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace.
Okay, are we finished with that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Matthew 18 and a few more after this. Matthew 18 and a few more after this. Matthew 18 and verse 21. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Jesus says unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife and his children, and all that he had, and payment be made. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. But the same servant went out and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence. And he laid hold on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest.
Okay, so this servant who was forgiven his debt by somebody he owed, which this is a parable of us being forgiven of God, which is why he told Peter, hey, 70 times 7. You got forgiven by God. You need to be about the business of forgiving as much and as many as you possibly can. That's the message Jesus is telling us. Because otherwise we are hypocrites to not forgive, being that we have been forgiven.
Right.
So, but this guy who was forgiven of the debt that he owed the king, he himself found somebody that owed him much less than he owed the king. And he's angry with him. He took him by, what did it say? He laid hold on him and took him by the throat. He's choking him out behind this, saying, pay me what thou owest. The same thing that the king said to him. Keep going.
And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all.
So the person that owed him asked him for some mercy. But he's so upset that he can't get his money, that he's choking him out. Keep going.
And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he shall pay the debt.
So he wouldn't forgive him. He's upset about the situation, and he wouldn't forgive him. Look, the title of the lesson is Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. And this is another easy way that anger can have us walking right into sin, is not being forgiven. Because what happens when we get angry? We hold on to that anger. We start formulating plans on getting somebody back or exiting them out of our lives. And that's not going to set the stage for forgiveness, is it? Oh man, I'm done with them. Whatever. But Jesus said, hey, if your brother come, and this guy asked for some mercy, you're supposed to give it to him. They asked for some forgiveness, you're supposed to be ready to forgive. That's what he said, right? 70 times 7. So we got to be careful with these areas. Hey, sinning with our lips. Anger will cause us to do that. Not forgiving people. Holding on to grudges. Anger will cause us to do that. That's what this guy did, right? He wouldn't forgive this guy.
Right.
Keep going.
So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desirest me.
Right.
Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? And his Lord was wroth and delivered him to the tormentors.
See, this is how the Lord gonna look at us if we don't forgive. So we can't let our anger. See, again, that's why I said, what did it say? Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Right. Why? Because if days and weeks and months go by and the issue has not been clearly addressed in a functional manner, then it can become something else. It can become an animal of its own. The issue doesn't get resolved. Nobody has received any forgiveness, and now you're just holding a grudge and having a problem with somebody. And the Lord is saying, hey, I didn't hold no grudges against you. I didn't have a problem with you when you were contrary to me. And that's ultimately going to stand against us. Keep going.
till he should pay all that was due unto him. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not everyone his brother their trespasses.
Okay, let's go to Galatians 5. Galatians 5 and 3 more after this. Galatians chapter 5 and 3 more after this. Galatians chapter 5 and 3 more after this. 5 and 14. Galatians 5 and verse 14. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye be not consumed one of another.
So he said, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye be not consumed one of another. So again, we got to be about forgiving. We can't be about anger and biting and devouring each other, because we're going to be consumed one of another, right? That's a vicious cycle. This is what it's showing us. So we got to love our neighbor as ourselves. Let's go to Mark chapter 11. Mark chapter 11. Mark chapter 11 and verse 23. Mark chapter 11 and verse 23. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
For verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he says shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith.
Okay, so Jesus is taking us all the way. He's talking big faith here, right? He's talking about us being empowered by the power of God and our faith in God to literally move mountains, right?
Right.
For verily I say unto you that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe those things which he said shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he said. He done took it to, this is collegiate level discipleship. This is professional here. Professional faith. That's what this is. Verse 24.
Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye will receive them, and ye shall have them.
Oh, you mean if I pray for a record deal, I can have that? That's not what he's talking about. Per se, it has to be within the will of God. And we're not talking about the will of God based on our will. We're talking about what we can read in this Bible is the will of God. That's what he's talking about. Therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believing that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Verse 25.
And when ye stand praying, forgive if ye have aught against any.
Look what he's throwing in here. He's talking about having all this power of faith, moving mountains, receiving whatever you pray for. But notice in the mix, he said, but you got to make sure you forgive.
Right.
That's how important forgiveness is for us and to God. And what's one of the main things that will keep us from forgiving somebody? Anger. That's why the title lesson is Be Ye Angry and Sin Not. And when you stand praying, forgive if you have aught against any. So he's saying, look, you coming to me asking me for stuff, you need to go handle that. Deal with your issue with your brother. Keep going.
That your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses.
You mean to tell me they looking at me at how I'm forgiving this brother affects how he forgives me? That's what he said, right? And when ye stand praying, forgive if ye have aught against any, that your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. That sounds like that's related. Verse 26. But if ye do not forgive, neither will your Father, which is related in heaven, forgive your trespasses. That's directly related. That's deep, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. Very.
Basically, I can't hold no grudges on somebody else and think that the Lord is going to forgive me. That's deep. But again, these are the principles that we are here to learn and start to do the work to incorporate this in our lives. Mark chapter 11. Oh, I'm sorry. We just did that, right?
Yeah. James.
Let's go to James chapter 1 and one more after this. So we looked at different things that easily cause us to sin by being angry. The first one being, hey, you let something come out your mouth from being angry. That's not what should happen. The second being holding on to grudges and not forgiving. James chapter 1 and verse 19. James chapter 1 and verse 19. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath.
Let everybody be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. So now, is that the world's natural inclination? Mm-mm. When you talk to somebody on the street, are they swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath?
Mm-mm.
It's usually the opposite, right? Slow to hear, swift to speak, swift to wrath. And people say we don't need the Bible though, right? We don't need God. We just going to evolve and you don't need the Bible to tell you right from wrong. Really? Well, why is it so hard to be swift to hear? Meaning, hey, I got something I want to say, but I'm not raring to go to say it. I want to hear and understand what you're saying first and make sure I get it. Keep going.
For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God.
See, that's true, right?
Right.
We can see that in the world. See, if the world was already on this page and already doing these things, then maybe they would have a point. But because we so desperately don't see this anywhere, really, it just proves the effectiveness of God. It proves the truth in the Bible. It proves it. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. So we need to be swift to hear, slow to speak,
yes,
and slow to wrath. Hey, that's one of the hardest things to do, to be slow to getting angry. Generally, anger happens pretty quickly. That's generally how that happens. But hey, what does it even look like to be slow to wrath? What does that look like? Have we seen that before? Have you ever laid eyes on somebody that was slow to wrath? Can you describe what that looks like? I mean, that's like, okay, I'm not gonna get upset yet. Let's find this out. Okay, we done found. Okay, all right. Well, I can see how that. I'm not going. Not yet. I need some more info. That's being slow to wrath.
Right.
Okay, now, okay, that's what I thought. Now that's going to make me upset if that's really what this is. Being slow to wrath. That's generally not how that works though, right? We jump to conclusions and get angry and go off into our own mind. The Lord said don't do that.
Right.
One more place, Ecclesiastes 7. Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 8. Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 8. Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 8. Okay, brother, when you get there, go ahead.
Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry.
Okay, so that's point blank. Don't rush to be angry. He said, be slow to wrath, right? Patient in spirit. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. Keep going.
For anger rests in the bosom of fools.
Okay, and that is, be ye angry and sin not. And I hope you got some understanding in the mighty name of Jesus.